Joe Robertson with House to Play. In many of my videos, you probably remember me scrolling over this part of the listing section on AirBNB and saying only half of you are listing on Airbnb and VRBO, and that's a mistake. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why. Here at the Lake of the Ozarks, we have a pretty brutal off-season, and this pretty much starts right after Labor Day, with occupancy dropping off from over 50% down to the 30% level in both September and October, and this only goes down throughout the winter until we start getting better in March. So it's very important to do whatever you can to fill your calendar during the off-season, or your calendar is going to look pretty bleak throughout the winter. Focusing on September and October, and you have your 32.7% and 30% here, that means for every 100 properties there are out there, this is only 30 guests looking to book them. And they're just not all going to fill up. There's just not that demand. So when we talk about market share between Airbnb and VRBO in the US, Price Labs did a study where they determined that Airbnb has 43% of the market share, VRBO holds about 21%, and they have direct bookings at 28%. This is a national study. I think that 28% is a little bit high for this market. What's direct booking? These are usually coming from your property managers like Lake Days, Four Seasons, Shores Vacation Rental, all the other property managers here. I think that's probably closer to 10% in this market. Don't hold me to that. That's just what I see on the surface, and maybe a little bit higher than that, but I don't think it's as high as 28%. I think Airbnb probably holds closer to 50 to 55% of the market share of the Lake of the Ozarks. VRBO somewhere between 35 and 40%. So 9 out of 10 bookings are probably coming from one of these two platforms. So when we talk about our off-season here, and we only have 30 guests for every 100 properties, and you're only on Airbnb or VRBO, one of the two, you're only getting exposure to 10 to 15 potential guests instead of 30. And that could be the difference between filling at least your weekends and being completely vacant. I think you should aim to try to fill most of your weekends during the off-season. Weekdays are tough, but off-seasons do tend to book, at least for me and my smaller property. When I look at my own calendar here for September and October, I do see a pretty even distribution between Airbnb and VRBO, and in a lot of cases, there's not a ton of lead time between when they booked and when they arrived. So when people are making that last-minute weekend trip to the lake, you want as much exposure as possible so you have a better chance of booking your property. So why wouldn't you be on both Airbnb and VRBO? Well, you really need the right tools in place so you don't have double bookings on your calendar. It's pretty embarrassing when you have a guest on both Airbnb and VRBO show up at the same time. One of them has to get canceled. It's a bad situation. It's certainly going to push your rank down on the platform you have to cancel on. Getting these tools in place, like the one I have up on here on the screen, it's OwnerRez. It's really not all that easy, but this is what I help out with. I'm not a property manager. I don't take a percentage of your monthly rate. I have a flat fee, and if it gets you a couple extra bookings in the off season, it probably pays for itself. So if you need help with this, let me know.